Hello YouTube, this is Dazza the cameraman. Today is April 20th, 2019, and I'm very pleased to have with me once again Steve, aka Samson Ite. Welcome along, Steve. How are you today?
I'm okay, thanks, mate.
Now, I believe it's just gone 10 a.m. in the UK where you are, is that correct?
Yeah.
Now, as I mentioned in the video that I uploaded just a short time ago, I've been watching the webcams, and let me just share my screen so we can take a look at those. Okay, hopefully, and I'll better present that to everyone. Hopefully everybody can see my screen there, and we're looking at the WorldCam website, and we're going to take a look at the webcam which is looking at the lighthouse, which is this one here. I can see that's going on the live feed now, and it's actually looking like quite a nice sort of day compared to the last few days we've been looking at. I've been saving the images every so often for the last few days, and it's certainly looking a lot clearer than it has been. So how is the weather looking where you are at the moment, Steve?
Yeah, we've got blue skies. You know, it should be a pretty good day for seeing what we need to see down at New Brighton and Hoylake.
Mm-hmm. So I've put a challenge out there. I don't know if Anthony has seen it. I haven't heard from him yet. In fact, let me just check my emails and see if there's any reply, and no, nothing from him. I did email it to him, and I've also sent it to him via Skype. Maybe he's having a sleep in on this Easter Saturday weekend, who knows. So looking a lot clearer there, and the other webcams of interest. Now, I was talking to you just off air before, Steve, about this image here, which I hadn't shown you, but I believe that this is right next to the lighthouse as well. I believe that the lighthouse is just off to the right. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I think so, mate. Yeah.
Yep. And this is is it what they call the castle? Am I remembering that correctly?
The fort.
The fort. Yeah, I knew it was something like that. So the fort, and then you've got this ramp down here, and I think you've got Marine Lake is just behind here off to the left, and you've got the sandy area here. So what I'll do is I'll pull up Google Earth, and we are looking at this area here. So the fort, I guess that's the fort there, is it? So yeah. Let me, I'm just trying to, because I haven't actually checked this to confirm that view. So I'm just putting this together in my head. So I've got a ramp down there, got a little parking area there. We've got this area here. So I just want to make sure that that's the same view. Is that a different area? Or
actually, mate, yeah, I think if you head more, just head a little south, I think that is that image.
Which way? This way?
Yes, southeast. Sorry. Just go back to your right.
Southeast would be this way.
Sorry, go back to your right. I think it's down there somewhere.
Down here?
Yeah.
Okay. So I might not have that one right about the lighthouse, but that really doesn't matter, because we know from the images that Anthony posted is that he was actually down in this area here where he said, quote, "I was lay flat on me belly." Now, he took a series of photos, and that was where he was located, down there. I mean, we can clearly see that because of the, well, the lighthouse itself, of course, is unmistakable.
Yeah.
And the orientation to the door. So let me tilt that. So he was around about there looking at the lighthouse.
Yeah.
Which places him down around about here. Okay. So that's the fort, and that's obviously, or is it the same place? Let me have a look. I don't think it is it? There's a ramp there.
No, I think that image you've just been showing me is further down there. Keep
Yeah.
going down. You should see it somewhere down there.
Okay, I'll confirm that one later, I guess.
Yeah.
So now I've sent you the emails. I forwarded you the emails that Anthony has sent to me.
Yeah.
And in the more recent emails from Anthony, because he changes all sorts of directions with his accusations, and it's actually going to be interesting going through the various claims that he's made along the way. He's jumped all over the place. But in more recent claims, he's actually stated that you have lied and that you have somehow falsified the data on the photos that you've taken from New Brighton. So just to recap for people who may not know the backstory on this, so Anthony Riley, aka Sleeping Warrior, back in March 2016 posted a video called 8 inches times miles squared is wrong. I think I've got the title right, or I just call it 8 inches is wrong to abbreviate it. And he claimed that he took a bunch of photos, which he presented in that video, from Hoylake, from down here. But in fact, it's pretty clear that those images were actually taken from New Brighton over here. The distance between where he claimed he was taking the photos and where he actually took the photos is about 5.5, 6 miles distance as the crow flies. Now, the photos, as you know, when we try and reconcile the view from Hoylake, it just doesn't agree with what we see. But we were able to work out that those photos were actually taken from New Brighton. And Steve, you went to New Brighton, and using the photos that Anthony presented in his video, you were able to pinpoint the locations that he took those photos from, correct?
Yeah, I got those images on my mobile phone. I took each image and I walked along until I found an exact match for each image, and I took a photo there myself.
Right. And we presented some of those images in the in a previous hangout that we did. We did a hangout just over 2 hours long. But let's see if I can just pull up. First of all, let's have a look at the original images. Where are we? Okay, here we go. So at the start of Anthony's video, first of all, he presents this view in Google Street View, where he claims that he was parked over here, parked his car, and then he said he went down the ramp and was over here on the sand, okay?
Yeah.
And then we see this index of photos on his computer. The very first image is image 0147. The last image is 0293. And there is also a video, a single video, 0205, okay? An interesting thing here, of course, is that we see this picture here of the lighthouse. Well, apparently, according to Anthony, he's supposed to be at Hoylake. Yet, where is this lighthouse?
That's in New Brighton.
Right. So,
and you definitely can't see that lighthouse from Hoylake.
Yeah. And this is the close-up of the image that he presented in his video. All of these images here are screenshots taken off the original video that he posted in March 2016. So there is the lighthouse, and I think, have I got the screenshot there of it? No, I haven't. In the video, we also get another look at the lighthouse as well. I can pull that up separately. So going through of these images, and the first image, of course, was number 0147, and in some of these images I've highlighted, brought up the levels so that we can see them more clearly. Obviously, some of these are quite hazy and hard to see, but with a bit of enhancement, we can actually see the terrain a lot more clearly.
Yeah.
So. Oh, here is the video, actually. Let's see if we can just play that. I reconstructed that video from his original video, taking out the bits in between.
Ah, got rid of that thing. Okay, so now bear in mind how flat to the ocean I am here.
See how far away it is. I am lay on my belly. I'm actually on my belly.
Can't get rid of that now.
Right, there it is. So let me just pause that and bring that back a little. And once again, there is the lighthouse, which, as Steve has confirmed, is actually at New Brighton, not at Hoylake.
Yeah, and can I just say that there's only one doorway into the lighthouse.
Right.
So the view of the angle on that doorway is definitely from New Brighton.
Yeah, yeah. So you were able to position yourself at pretty much the same point where Anthony took this video and the other photos from.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess looking at all of these photos, you know, he started with image 0147, which he claims was taken at Hoylake, and then he moves about different places. Now, it's easy to actually break those down into groupings of images.
Yeah.
So we can see that the first group of images that he took was this set here, from 0147 to 0163. And let's have a look on Google Earth. So that's the location here where he took that first group from.
Yeah.
And then he took a single image, number 165, from this location here. Okay. And we're able to pinpoint that one pretty much exactly because of the orientation of the buoys.
Yeah.
And then as we go back, where are we? So you've got the first set there. You've got the second image all on its own, and then you've got this main group in the orange here, which were all taken. And of course, the lighthouse here in the index photo is the giveaway. They were all taken just behind the lighthouse there.
Yeah, the photo he left in by mistake.
Yeah. In his video, as he clicks on that, he says, "Oh, just ignore that one." Yeah. Let's pretend we didn't see that one, right, Anthony? Because it's a very inconvenient image, that one, if we consider that.
It gave the whole game away.
Yeah, it gave the whole thing away, and also the video, which is this one here.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing, though, I mean, he does say that he moved down the promenade. It's almost as if in Anthony's mind, the promenade is all the way from Hoylake to New Brighton. Maybe that's what he thinks. But it doesn't matter even if he does think that, because none of the images were actually taken at Hoylake, not a single one of them. The very first image that he took and presented in his video was taken right here at New Brighton.
Yeah, I think some of that, what he claims is he moved down the promenade as well. Some of that there is one way traffic only, heading towards the left of your screen there. So he couldn't have drove like particularly down every point.
Yep. Okay, so that was the first location where he took a bunch of photos, and then he took a single image, number 165, from this location. And then he went down to behind the lighthouse here and took the bulk of the images. Yeah. And then after he finished there, that is, by the way, where he kept saying, "I'm lay flat on me belly."
Yeah.
And he kept on pointing to the Earth curvature calculator, which interestingly enough, he had set the distance to Blackpool Tower as being 30 miles. Well,
And it's about 25 from there, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. So the distance of 30 miles is correct if he's at Hoylake. It's not correct if he's next to the lighthouse at New Brighton. As Steve has just said, the correct distance is 25 miles. The fact that he kept referring to that curvature calculator would suggest that he was trying to claim that he was still at Hoylake, not somewhere else further along the promenade. Because obviously, as you get closer to Blackpool Tower, you're going to have to reduce the distance in that curvature calculator. Otherwise, your calculations are going to be nonsense. So then, after being at the lighthouse there, he took a few images, images 281 to 284, looking across to the Anfield Stadium, which is across the water here. At Anfield, the stadium's around there somewhere. And the funny thing is that when he was recalling this in his video, he identified this location, looking at the photos, as being West Kirby.
Yeah, for some crazy reason he did, yeah.
Yeah, and West Kirby is actually way over here, right?
Yeah.
There's West Kirby. And he was over here taking photos of Anfield and identified the location as West Kirby. So he seems to be rather confused about where he is. So after he took those photos, he then came back to this location, just a few meters away from 165, and he took the final images 0288 to 0293. Now, as I recall, I think we only see up to 0292 in the actual video. We didn't see that final photo, but that's neither here nor there. So, as you said earlier, Steve, you used those photos that I'd sent you, all of these ones here. You took them on your phone, and you were able to use these photos directly off Anthony's video to find the various locations to pin them down as you went along the promenade at New Brighton.
Yeah.
And there's a key feature here. Can you see that on your screen, Steve?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, do you want to tell us about what we're looking at here?
Well, there's a kind of a famous white house that sits at Formby there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you can also see a buoy just in front of it.
Yep, this one here.
Yeah.
Yep. I'll just go to another folder where I've got a lot more of the enhanced photos. Here we go. And that might make it a little bit clearer for people. 147 in particular. Okay. So is that all right? That's the original one before he zooms in on it. So hopefully we can see that white house more clearly and that buoy right there as well. So you were able to use the location of the buoy against the white house there to find the location along the promenade there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a couple of other key photos within that first group, of course, is image 149 and image 150. Now, so the first one was 147, and then the second image he presented was 149. There was an image missing, which had obviously been deleted for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But the second and third image was this one here, 149, and the third image was 150, which shows the wind turbines. And so using these two key images here, we were able to triangulate his exact position. Because in this image, and let me go full screen on that, we're actually looking across to the Coast Guard building at Crosby. And here we can see an aerial mast. And it is right between the seam of the two parts of the Coast Guard building. Now, this only works if you're actually at New Brighton.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
coast, yeah. If you look at you, Steve, you also went to Hoylake and took some photos as well.
Yeah, I did.
Right. But from Hoylake, where Anthony said he was, this aerial mast was over in this direction because of the Anthony likes to talk about parallax. Well, the parallax from Hoylake, of course, is quite different to at New Brighton. So that was very different. Yeah.
You're only going to see the aerial mast in that position from New Brighton.
Yeah. Okay, and also the wind turbines. And after we had our hangout, I actually took another look at this in Google Earth. And because in one of the videos that you took, you actually did a pan around, and just to the right of the wind turbines, I could see that there were 2 turbines on their own.
Yeah.
And so I was able to confirm which row of turbines this actually is, and
Yeah.
it matches exactly. I'll have to do a separate video on that actually, where I overlay the photo over the top.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, you could do with doing that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and I think we should probably look at some of the photos that you took, of course.
Yeah.
And let's have a look. Steve's photos on March 28th. So these are the key images. You can see I've got a folder there of redundant images. So if we just have a look in there, these are images that although were helpful to sort of provide context and everything, they weren't key images. Some of them, you know, we also see that beacon, which Anthony had misidentified as the Blackpool Tower. And by the way, I should probably just explain that again too for people who aren't aware of it. Anthony believed that he was viewing Blackpool Tower from, he said, Hoylake. Of course, we've identified that all of these were from New Brighton, but the object that he thought was Blackpool Tower was actually a historic guiding beacon, which is located right here, and it's at Formby Point. So it's actually a lot closer than Blackpool Tower is, which is way off in the distance there. There is Blackpool Tower. So what was it, 25 miles away from New Brighton?
Yeah.
To Blackpool Tower. But the actual beacon that he was looking at, let's have a look at the distance there. Measurements. So about 7.7 miles to the beacon.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we were going to look at your photos there. So those redundant images. So we'll go back. So these are the main key images. So again, there is a much clearer image of the Coast Guard building there, and we can see that aerial mast is right on that seam. And this was taken from New Brighton.
Yeah, and you've got the GPS data as well on that photo to prove that point.
Yeah, and before I see I've had a reply from Anthony Riley. Okay.
Yeah.
So I sent him the link to the video along with the description, which is contained under that video. So I said, this is an invitation and challenge to Anthony Riley, aka Sleeping Warrior. Steve, aka Samson Ite, is willing to meet with you at New Brighton and take photos there with you at the locations we identified as your so-called Hoylake photo locations. Today is clearer than it has been for several days. So how about fronting up and checking these locations in person with Steve? You are welcome to bring along conspiracy cats and or Ranty if you wish. Let's settle this once and for all. So Anthony has just replied, and he says, and this came in 10 minutes ago. No, he says, this does not go far enough. If I'm to go back, as I said to you in the recording without permission, I'm not going back just for that one picture. What I will do is go back at high tide or low tide and take your guy with me. At is not possible to see the tower at a certain point above water. Well, hang on a minute. Sounds to me like he's talking about Blackpool Tower again. Anthony, we're not talking about Blackpool Tower. We're talking about your photos that you claimed that you took from Hoylake. You've already conceded that you weren't filming Blackpool Tower. You've conceded that you mistook another object for Blackpool Tower, which we have since identified as being the Formby Point guiding beacon. So once again, what we're seeing here is that you are trying to obfuscate and sidestep the real issue by trying to bring the focus back onto Blackpool Tower, which is what you've been doing all along. Now, we're actually more than happy to do a separate video about Blackpool Tower. Steve has agreed to this, haven't you, Steve?
I have, yeah.
Yep. Steve is more than happy to come along with you and Conspiracy Cats and Ranty if necessary, and to take some observations at high tide or low tide or whatever tide you want of Blackpool Tower from Hoylake. But that is not the issue here. The issue is your claim that you took these images from Hoylake. You've accused me of being a liar, and you've now accused Steve of being a liar. You've accused Steve of falsifying his images somehow, and I'll read that part of the email in just a minute. So just to make the point to you, Anthony, this is not about the visibility of Blackpool Tower. However, we're more than happy to do a separate video on that. This is about your claim that your images were taken from Hoylake and your claim that I am lying about that. So we need to clear this up, because as you've said in your recent videos, if you're wrong about something, instead of flexing your dick, as you put it, you should just admit that you're wrong. Anthony, you're not very good at taking your own advice. So I'll carry on. He says, it's not possible to see the tower at a certain point above water. I can prove that we can see it way below that height, and because the horizon is the seesaw effect on a ball, you tell me what the height above water is in the drawn line in the sand and explain your reasoning. And I will take Cats and your guy and prove that your bullshit religion is just that. So as I've said, he's actually focusing on Blackpool Tower. He goes on to say, however, you must both concede that if we see the tower or any part of it below that height, it cannot be a ball. We won't breach it by just a foot or two. It will be right down to the application of the Rayleigh criterion of angular resolution limitation, which will be our model. So again, he's focusing. See, this is what he does, isn't it, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, you know, to me, he's changing the subject as best he can. The tower thing is completely separate to what we're talking about. And
yeah,
as you say, you know, you can do a whole video on the tower from, you know, Hoylake. Yeah. And there's no reason why it shouldn't be visible at, you know, certain tides and certain amounts of it. It changes. Yeah. But that's, you know, that's not what the issue is here.
No. Yep. I've just scanned through the rest of his email, and basically the rest of his email is all focusing on that. It's nothing at all to do with Hoylake and his claims that his images were taken from there. That's what this is all about. But he is trying to obfuscate. He's trying to shift the focus. He's trying to avoid the real issue. And Anthony, I'm not going to let you get away with it. You called me a liar. You've now called Steve a liar. You've called Sean Hufford a liar, and you're being called to account for it, because, you know, you're very quick to call people names and give advice and tell them what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing, but you're not very good at taking that advice yourself. So I'm not going to let you get away with that, Anthony. This is about your claims that you took those images from Hoylake. And let me just go back on some of the other recent... oh, yeah. So what did he do yesterday? He actually tried to obfuscate once again by looking at one of my previous videos that, again, has completely nothing at all to do with the Hoylake issue, just to try and take some focus away. And he did a spectacular fail on that one as well, because he actually misidentified the landmass that he was looking at. He claimed it was Slipper Island. It's not Slipper Island. It's a mountain range behind a township of Pawanui, and there is no reason why it shouldn't be seen at that distance, given the height of the mountain range at Pawanui. Once again, obfuscating.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, he's just, is he a lost cause?
Well, it makes me wonder really what's going on in his head. You know, I've always said that I've always been reluctant to call the guy a liar from the start. But the longer this goes on, the more I see why people call him Lily, and that's why I've started calling him Lily as well. You know, at the start I thought, well, maybe he made an honest mistake, and he could have made an honest mistake. You know, I don't know that he didn't actually go to Hoylake earlier that day and accidentally delete his images. But I would think that when he actually made the video that same day, because he does say in his video that he and the missus went to Hoylake today, you would think that as he was looking at those images and seeing the lighthouse and all that sort of thing, that he would go, oh, hang on a minute, there's something missing here. What happened to my images I took from Hoylake? I must have deleted them. But there's no mention of that at all. All the way through, he stuck to his claim that these images were taken from Hoylake. And since then, he's piled lie upon lie upon lie. And, you know, more recently, he stated to me that that day that he made that video, that the tide was out and that he drove deep down the beach and all of the images were actually taken from the beach, Hoylake, because the tide was out. I'm actually seeing if I can find the quote there without having to dig too deep. But while we're talking about that, let's go back to the, there we go, the webcam. Let's check for an update on that. So the tide's actually coming in now, and you can see that line on the lighthouse there, that black line.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is a seawall. Now, when Anthony took his photos, he was actually on the sand back here somewhere, just off to the right a bit. And that door is on that side there. And this seawall was actually completely submerged by water. This black line is pretty much the high tide line. And the water in that image, let's see if I can pull it up quickly. Where are we? That one there. Hang on. Just bear with me. Okay. The lighthouse, here it is. Here is the lighthouse. This is image 0166 from his photos, okay? And we can see the water line is almost right up to that black line there, okay?
Yeah. So he could have been out on the beach, as he says.
Yeah, he said that the tide was out and he drove deep down the beach where he, you know, he drove along the beach and took all of these photos. Well, again, we see that he's lying because as the tide is coming in, we can see there's no way that he's going to be driving down the beach. This is at New Brighton. Let's look at the other images. This is that other one that I need to confirm the location. But again, this is at the same time. It's now, what, 10:35 in UK?
Yeah.
Correct? Yep. And so we can see that the tide is almost up to the wall here. Okay.
Yeah.
And where is the other one? Liso. This one here. So Liso is between Hoylake and New Brighton. And this is one of the locations I had earlier suspected that he had been filming from, but that was based on his assertion that he was actually filming Blackpool Tower. was after we discovered that he was actually filming the guiding beacon at Formby Point. We were able to confirm that he was not at this location as we suspected he was. But the point here is that we can see the water. Again, it's 10:35 here. All of these images are concurrent, and the water is in. So if the water was up to this line on the lighthouse when he took these images, there is no way that he drove down the beach. So
not unless you've got a James Bond car.
yeah. So once again, we see that Anthony is lying.
Yeah.
So I just want to find his other quotes in his email. So that's refreshing there. Let's go back to the main one. I want to find that bit where he accused you of lying. I see I'm replying to him, so it must be this. Oh, yeah, okay. So on Friday, April 19th, 2019, Anthony said to me, I think your guy Steve has lied with his evidence to you, and I think you are dishonestly gaslighting me. The original video literally disproves your guy and totally supports me, he says.
What can you say to that?
Steve, did you not turn on the GPS feature on your P900 when you took your photos from New Brighton?
I did turn on GPS, yes.
And did you not send all of those photos to me so that I could check the metadata?
Yes, you got all the GPS data.
Yeah. And while you were there at New Brighton, did you not also pan around with your camera and actually take a video so that I could see your exact location?
Yeah, each photographic location, I took a video, 1 or 2 minutes long, showing what I was actually looking at from the view of Riley's photos, and I panned around. So anybody, if they want to, can see that footage just to prove it.
Now, the funny thing about that, Steve, is that when I compared the photos with the videos that you took where you panned around, I could see that the video was taken from the same locations as you took those photos. And when I looked at the metadata for those photos and checked the GPS locations and imported those GPS locations into Google Earth and also used that Nikon software where it actually shows it on a map, which I can bring up in a minute, by the way, it actually confirmed, that the Google Earth Street View actually confirmed what I saw in the video that you took. How strange is that?
Well, strange according to Riley anyway.
Bizarre. What can we say? He's just painting himself further and further into a corner. He just, I find it interesting to hear that he's studying to be a lawyer, because being a lawyer isn't necessarily about telling the truth, is it? It's also about defending criminals and liars and trying to put forward the best argument that you can to try and get the person off the charge, right?
Yeah, but for some reason, I still don't think he'd be any good at that.
Yeah. Well, he's not a very good liar either, so.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. So he's accused you of lying and falsifying it. Well, Anthony, the challenge is still there, and let's be very clear about this. This isn't about the visibility of Blackpool Tower from Hoylake. There's no question about the visibility of Blackpool Tower from Hoylake. And Steve has already agreed that he's quite happy to collaborate with you in taking some photos and video using his P900 of Blackpool Tower from Hoylake, either at high tide or low tide or any other time that suits. But that is not the issue. The issue here is that you maintain that your photos that you presented in your video from March 2016 were taken from Hoylake. I've said all along that your photos were not taken from Hoylake, they were taken from New Brighton, and you have accused me of being a liar as a result. You posted a video, Dazza the cameraman lied to the ballers about me. That's not the truth at all, Anthony, and you know it. And if you're honest enough with yourself, then you'll get yourself along to New Brighton, either with or without Steve, and you will take some photos from the locations that Steve and I have identified. Let's bring up Google Earth again. These are the locations at New Brighton. I've already sent screenshots and, you know, the GPS location to Anthony. So there's no reason why he can't go to New Brighton himself and go to these exact locations and take some photos.
All he has to do, you know, if he wants to claw something back from this, is go back and redo a similar video to what he did with photos and GPS data. That's all he has to do.
Yeah, that's right. We were looking at your photos. Let's go back to that. Stay. Get across there. There we go. All right, so these are the main ones. Let me go full screen on that. So we looked at that one earlier with the Coast Guard building and the aerial mast, which allows us to triangulate the position that he took that photo from. That's before I enhanced it. So you can see the difference that the simple enhancement makes I'm using paint.net, which is a free program like Photoshop.
Yeah.
You select the area and then just hit auto levels. And so out of all of that haze, we can clearly see the detail. It makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Okay. Coast Guard building again with the aerial mast, elderly apartments, Alderley, maybe, if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. And again, the White House and the beacon. Okay, and so here is an image that I've stitched together. These are using Steve's photos that he took from New Brighton. And the red arrow points to where the guiding beacon can be seen. And then I've overlaid this image, which was taken from Anthony's original video. Let's have a closer look at that. Okay, so Anthony is using his cursor when he was doing the video to point out where what he thought was Blackpool Tower is. So his cursor is right on what he thought was the tower, which is actually the guiding beacon.
Yeah.
Now, this was the very first image, 0147, which was supposedly taken from Hoylake, mysteriously matches the terrain and features perfectly, including the position or location of the guiding beacon, as shown by the red arrow, in these photos taken by Steve from New Brighton. Now, unfortunately, the images from Anthony's video are horribly poor resolution because they are screenshots taken off the original video. I did my original analysis of his video in April of 2017, which was more than a year after he posted his video in March 2016. And at the time, I did ask Anthony for the original photos. As I recall, he said that they were, I think he said that they were on a different computer or old computer or something, but for whatever reason, he either could not or would not send me those photos. Maybe they had been deleted since then, I don't know. But that's the reason why the images here from, or his images, look so poor quality compared to Steve's images. If I had the original images, obviously they would be a lot clearer.
Yeah.
But even so, where you can see enough data. There's Anthony using his cursor to point out what he thought was Blackpool Tower, which matches up with the guiding beacon. We can see features here like this dark feature here. It's obviously that bit there. You can see the hump and the point there. You can see that it, it's trailing off. You can see this feature here as this bit here. This
You
bit
can
here.
see, and you can kind of see the high water mark in the land there with the there's a line running just along the land there.
Yeah, along there.
That's where Anthony's photos were taken with the water up to there.
Yeah, so the tide was rather different between when Anthony took his photos, which was almost high tide, and when you took your photos, which I think was about half tide.
Yeah, about mid tide.
Yeah.
But you can see Anthony's photos. It was on high tide there.
Yep. Okay, so I'm going the wrong way there. Go this way. Wherever I've got that red arrow that we're pointing out the guiding beacon there. There it is.
Yeah.
So there's, again, these images are STEs. So that is without any enhancement at all. And we can hardly see anything at all. That's where I've enhanced the whole photo. So, hang on, that's not the same photo, that one. Is it? It's hard to say, isn't it? No, because that one has not got the...
I did take a lot of photos.
Yeah, the beacon there. But that's the one that's not enhanced there, so I was going the wrong way. So there's the original without any enhancement whatsoever, and you can hardly see anything at all except we've got the a buoy there.
Yeah.
You can just sort of make out the land there, and then I enhance just the selected area, and we can see so much more, including the guiding beacon, the Formby Point guiding beacon. And then the next one, that is the whole image enhanced. But what I do find is that you tend to get better results if you just select the area of interest instead of applying the enhancement to the whole image as I've done there.
Yeah.
You can see the difference that makes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So again, this is a wide shot, which is a good one to compare with Anthony's original videos. You've got that buoy there, which is the yellow and black one.
Yeah.
That's the White House. At one point, he even tried to dismiss this White House in one of my follow-up videos and claimed that it was a boat. He knew very well what this object was because it was a key image in all of our discussions about what we were seeing in his video. For him to say that it was a boat is just disingenuous.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is another word that he likes to use, of course. Okay, so these are other key images. Again, this is that single image 0165, again supposedly taken from Hoylake, and again these buoys were key, weren't they, Steve?
Yeah, again I used my phone to look at his image while I walked along, basically looking through the camera lens to see when I could get a match. Now the place I originally wanted to go, because of where I thought the match was, there was a guy fishing there, swinging a rod around with little hooks and things in. So I couldn't stand in the place that I wanted to. So I stood next to him for that photo. Yeah.
And if you had been exactly where he was with his fishing line, then the positioning would have been exact.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let's take a look at that in Google Earth. That's this position down here. 0165, and so you took your photos from about here, and the guy was fishing here, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yep. And when Anthony came back and took his final photos, 0288 to 0293, he was right here again.
Yeah.
And in in those photos, which I stitched together, we can actually see a little gap. I might pull those up in a minute, but if I go down to Street View, and I think I've got to go out here a little bit, don't I? Yeah. Okay, we can see, oops, wrong way. We can see, if I zoom in a little bit there, there's a little gap here where you can go down the stairs.
Yeah.
And where Anthony, he took his photo, we can actually see the alignment between this side of the wall and this side, and we can see the metal railing, the knob on the metal railing just sticking up, just in the bottom frame of his photo. I believe what he did was he actually pulled up in his car and took some photos. I think he didn't even get out of his car at this point here, looking at the angle of the photo there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And yeah, again, Steve went down onto the beach here. Oh, not just down on the beach, but also up on the promenade here. It took a number of videos, panned around for me so that he could confirm his filming location. And of course, Anthony says that Steve has somehow falsified his location.
Well, you know, if Anthony wants to, he can see the video I took showing the location and showing what he shows in his photo.
Yep. Now, Anthony posted a video about almost 24 hours ago now, basically saying that Dazza, the cameraman, can't parallax. And what he said to me, I wonder if I can find that the emails. It's his most recent one. He hasn't sent me anything further, by the way. I wonder if he's watching. Okay, so Anthony said about parallax. And where's the first bit? He said, so how do you explain the horizontal parallax expressly referenced in the video at that time then? Oops, Dazza, he says. And then he went on in a separate email to say, the first parallax evidence is from 7:23. This is in his original video. The second is evidence from 7:55. You cannot have two parallax evidences without three significantly different locations. This is fact, dude. You have your analysis clearly wrong. Address why there is two parallax issues that destroy your claims of me. You can put up an apology video within 24 hours, or I'm going to do another one to this effect. Dazza can't parallax. You need three locations to get two parallax locations. Your boy Steve has lied to you about what he has sent you, and I was originally right about Hoylake. Time for you to admit your mistakes, dude, says Anthony Liley. Right. So he makes the point that you cannot have two parallax evidences without three significantly different locations. What are we looking at here, Steve?
Kind of three locations there, mate.
Well, let me just count them because I might have this wrong. 1, 2, 3. I think there's three locations there. What are they pointing to here, Steve?
They're pointing to the Formby navigation point.
So he's talking about the parallax to what he thought was Blackpool Tower, because in his video he pointed out that as he moved to the right, the tower was moving to the left. So he's talking about parallax there. So he's, I sent him these pictures. He's got no excuse, right? Yeah.
He's obviously not even looked. Oh, it doesn't care. Oh, it's just, I don't know.
Now, let me just be very clear about this. These locations here are at New Brighton, not at Hoylake, where he claimed he was.
Yeah.
His argument is that he started at Hoylake and that he moved along the promenade, which it seems in Anthony's mind seems to go all the way from Hoylake to New Brighton somehow. But he was never at Hoylake, or at least none of his photos that he presented in his video were taken from Hoylake. They were all taken from New Brighton. The very first image was taken from right here. Okay, so let's address his issues about parallax a bit more. So here are his 3 locations along the promenade there. The 4th location was round the corner looking across to Anfield, so that's not really relevant. So let's measure the distance between the locations. So from here to the first location to the second location, we're talking about 0.73 miles, right? From the second location to the third location, which is by the lighthouse, is almost 0.6 miles.
Yeah.
And from the first location to the third location, obviously, is about 1.3 miles.
Yeah.
And we can see already from the angle of these lines that we've got plenty of parallax there, Anthony. So I'm sure that answers your question. I suggest you go ahead with your video, but you call it, I suggest you call it Anthony Liley Can't Parallax. Now, another way to look at it is if we zoom in on the navigation beacon, and we remember that this White House was a key landmark in identifying where we were, right?
Yeah.
There is the White House. That was key to everything. There is no other feature there along the coastline that stands out like that White House. And then we had the marker buoys and beacons that we could line up. Okay, so let's look at this from, let's line up with the center one. So this one's down the middle to New Brighton, and you've got the first location, the third location, you've got the house there. Well, look at the amount of parallax that you've got there. Let's measure across there from the first location along the coastline, which is probably not really the correct way to do it. That way there, that's 0.17. But if we go in line with the house, since that was a key location, we go across there, you know, well, that's not very far, but if you compare it to the house in the photos, as to give it scale, all right, then I mean that really says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So there is your parallax, Anthony Liley, right there. There is your parallax from your different locations. That is why, as you said, as you move to the right, you know, then your beacon is going to shift with the foreground and so forth. Steve, can you think of any other issues that we need to address before we wind this up?
Only to say, I mean, as I said, if you know, if Anthony wants to see any of the videos showing his locations, he's quite welcome to, just to prove that all the photographs were taken from where they were supposed to have been taken, exactly from his pictures. So he's quite welcome to see the videos if he wants to.
Yep, I'm going to pull some of them up anyway.
The one with the beacons in the house that line up is a good one. Because I think I did zoom in on the house and the 2 beacons where you could see it, and then I panned round to show the location?
Yep. I probably haven't got these labeled very well. Let me just kill that. So there's the lighthouse. It's probably one of the ones from further along, or is this the one that you're talking about?
No, it's not. It's, you know, the one where the two beacons kind of line up with the house.
Yep. Let's check one of these. I've got three in a row because you've got part 1, part 2, part 3.
Yeah.
So see here, Steve is very carefully pointing out the local landmarks here, as I had requested him to. I'd sent him screenshots from Google Street View and said, this is where you need to be. This is where I believe that Anthony Liley was filming from. So can you take some photos from here? And that's exactly what Steve has done. Here's the road sign that you pointed out to me. And here is the building. And, you know, he pans around to show me what we're looking at. And we can use Google Street View and the markings on the road and all that sort of thing to show exactly where we are. So here we are at the New Brighton Promenade. And let me scroll through. Just stop me if you need to,
Yeah.
Steve.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Steve is zooming in, just having a bit of trouble with the focus on the P900 there. Zooming in on the Coast Guard building there, and I can already see that the aerial mast there.
Yeah.
And panning across. Oh, there's the house. I think you actually stop and start refilming so you get your focus working correctly.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so that's number 1. So we'll go to number 2. Okay, so that's that yellow and black beacon and the White House, which, as I said before, was really a key landmark for working out where we were. So I'll just scroll along. Okay, there's the Coast Guard building again, and you can clearly see that aerial mast.
Yeah,
And,
it's in the position it would be in when taken from New Brighton.
Yep. Now this does not work as seen from Hoylake, and
No.
remember that this was the equivalent of the second image that Anthony took, which he claimed was from Hoylake.
Yeah.
So that the second and third images that Anthony presented proved that he was not at Hoylake, that he was actually at New Brighton. Now, this is interesting here because you pan and show the wind turbines. So this is what I was saying, and I'll just pull up Google Earth again to show this. Now, let me just reset the tilt and compass so it's flat. Okay, and zoom out. Now, we've got an overlay for the Burbo Bank wind farm. So if I turn that on, it's the location of all the wind turbines. Now, this area in grey shows the wind turbines as they were when Anthony took his photos, which he presented in that video of March 2016. The ones in the blue here have been installed after these ones here, okay?
Yeah.
Now, if we turn on the line, where is it? So that one's an important one to start with. And I think I'm looking for a blue line. Here we go. That one there. That is the line to the wind turbines that we see in Anthony's image. Now, originally, before up until the point where we did our last hangout, I actually had that line onto this first row here. But after we did our hangout, I was able to refine that and confirm that it's actually this row here. I can actually overlay Anthony's photo on top of Steve's video. And I might try and do that just roughly here while we're at it. So the key point here is that we've got 2 turbines there. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 turbines there. Then we've got the same number again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 turbines there. So let's go back to the video and see what we see. There's 2 turbines there.
Yeah.
And as we pan across, there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
And we pan across some more. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The one at the back is a bit harder to see.
Yeah, I can just make it up.
Yep. And then you've got those other ones that have been installed since.
Yeah, the new ones, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now I think further towards the end here, we might get a better view of that second bank of 8 as you zoom in. And I'll pull up Anthony's image. So Anthony has no excuse for claiming that you had faked something. You know, the fact that we've got GPS data on the images.
Yeah.
And the fact that you've panned around and actually shown your location. So I think that there is the third set. So let me find the complete set and the wind turbines, which is that one there. I need a cropped version to do it properly. Hang on, let me see if I can do it this way. Okay, I can do this and I have done it already using paint.net, where I actually overlaid this image on top of them, and they just lined up perfectly, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So once again, confirming the location of that whole group of photos.
Yeah.
From that point on the promenade at New Brighton. So we've got 2 things that we're able to triangulate that with: the wind turbines, and more accurately, the line to the aerial mast from this location to the Crosby Coast Guard building. So we just turn off that map and we'll be able to see things properly again. There we go. So there is the Coast Guard building.
Yeah.
And the red line is right on where the aerial mast is, which is not so easy to see in this view here.
Yeah. And if you were to put a line from Hoylake to that, you'd see that the mast is in a completely different place to Riley's photos.
Yeah. So that red line cuts right through the seam, the 2 parts of that Coast Guard building there.
Yeah.
You've got that main part of the building and the second part, and that red line cuts right through there. And that triangulates us back to that point on the promenade there.
Yeah.
Okay. So all of that first group of photos that Anthony took were all taken from this position here at New Brighton. They were not taken from Hoylake, as Anthony keeps claiming they were. Yeah. Anthony Riley, you are a liar. I could have accepted once upon a time that maybe you had made an honest mistake, and maybe you had been at Hoylake earlier in the day and you took some photos there, and then you went to New Brighton, and that somewhere along the line you accidentally deleted the photos that you took from Hoylake, because let's face it, there are some missing images in the rest of the series. The numbers are not all consecutive through to the end. I could have accepted that, but the fact that you have piled lie upon lie upon lie, even claiming that you drove down the beach because it was low tide, when in fact we can see that it was pretty much high tide against the lighthouse. You have done nothing but lie from, you know, every every step along the way. And this is why people call you Lily, because you can't be honest. You know, you accuse other people of being liars, and you say that, look, you know, to quote you, you said, instead of trying to flex your dick, as you put it, when you're wrong, you should just admit it. But you won't do that yourself. You just keep accusing people of lying. And yes, he has doubled down, he's tripled down. And just looking at some of the comments, and thanks to everybody for joining us. And I always find it difficult to try and follow the chat. I don't multitask very well.
No, I was trying to follow it before, but then I was missing stuff. So
yeah. But you know, we have seen time and time again that Lily, as he's been popularly dubbed, is a compulsive liar.
Yeah, I mean, as I said to someone yesterday, with regards to Riley, you know, the flat Earth insanity, and pardon the pun, but it's pushed him over the edge.
Yeah. I think we'll have a quick look at your Hoylake photos as well.
Yeah.
Because I think that's quite important. Those ones stay Hoylake. Yeah. So on February the 14th this year, you went to Hoylake, and then you went on to New Brighton, where you took the first lot of photos for me.
Yeah, I think for this episode of photos, I've probably been there at least 3 or 4 times for you anyway.
Yeah.
And I'll go there again and again if I have to.
Yep, because you certainly don't like Anthony's lies, do you?
No, definitely not.
So this is February 14th, 2019, and this was taken from Hoylake. And we can see that White House again. And the big difference that we see here is that the terrain is considerably higher behind the White House than what it is when we view it from New Brighton. And the photos that Anthony presented in his video, the terrain is lower than what we see at Hoylake.
Yeah.
In fact, Anthony even went back to Hoylake in April of 2017 and took some new photos, or took some photos, I should say, maybe not even new photos, maybe he was never there previously.
Yeah.
But in his video, he even commented that the terrain was significantly different. And it was like, hello, Anthony. Good point, Anthony. Why are you not actually figuring out that there's a major problem in your argument there? Because the terrain in the photos that you've just taken from Hoylake don't match the terrain in the photos that you presented in your original video.
Yeah, I mean, even the house is on a completely different angle. You know, you're seeing the front of the house regards to what you're seeing in Riley's. You know, you're seeing the kind of the side and the front, but that one, you're mostly seeing the front. You can see it's a completely different angle.
Yeah. Do you recognize this photo?
Yeah. Well, I know what it is, yeah.
Yeah, okay. What are we seeing here?
Well, you've seen the Coast Guard building at Crosby.
Right. Okay, so here is the enhanced version to make it easier.
Yeah.
So here is the Coast Guard building, and this is Alderley Apartments, and we can have a look in Google Earth at that. But as I zoom in, I don't know, can you make out where the aerial mast is?
Yeah, I can see it just to the left of the building there. Yeah, completely away from the 2 middle sections that you can see it from New Brighton.
So which way do I need to move? I can actually see it, but I want you to tell me which way do I need to move my cursor?
Yeah, move it to the left. Keep going.
Tell me when to stop.
Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Stop.
Right there. So there is the aerial mast. There is the main part of the Coast Guard building, and there is that second part alongside.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, this is from Hoylake.
This is from Hoylake. So the aerial mast is to the left in this view from Hoylake. But in Anthony's image, which he claims was from Hoylake, the aerial mast is down the middle here. which
Yeah.
actually matches what we see in Steve's photos that he took from New Brighton.
Yeah.
So Steve has been to Hoylake, and he has been to New Brighton. As he mentioned, he's done about 4 trips now. And then after that, Steve went to New Brighton, and here is the first image that he took from New Brighton. And it was pretty hazy.
The photo numbers on mine are all sequential and match up, non-deleted.
Yeah. And so here is a clearer image again from New Brighton this time.
Yeah.
And there is the aerial mast there. Now,
Yeah.
this is the first trip, so I should say that we were still refining the exact locations that we were pinning down.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we had to go, which way was it? A little bit further to the left, is it, from that one? Yeah. So Steve got some great shots. And, oh, by the way, the buoys that we see and were key in pinpointing the locations. For example, that's probably not a good one. That's not relevant, really, that one. When I say relevant, I say that because we're comparing them to the original photos that Anthony took. So, for example, we've got this black and yellow buoy here against the White House. So let's have a look in Google Earth. Let me just reset the tilt and compass. Need a function key for that. Okay, so I've got another little overlay here. Where is it? I think it's this one here I want. Let's turn on that one to start with. But hard to see. I was able to find a map showing the location of all the buoys and beacons. Okay.
All right.
And I was able to import that, line it up with the map, so it's accurate.
Yeah.
Now, it was a bit hard to see with all of all of this going on. So what I did was I used PaintNet to remove the surrounding area and just leave the beacons. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think I've got some markers here for, there we go. It's a black and yellow beacon. So that matches exactly. Yeah. So I can even tell Anthony the official beacon numbers in his photos.
Cool.
as seen from New Brighton.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's C21 or what's that one? C18. This one just seems to be called Beacon Burbo, that one.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's a real big green one over there somewhere, or is it Beacon, big green one, that one there? Yeah. So that's the one that you see from the lighthouse in some of your images as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, Anthony, I've got this so nailed down that you've just got no excuse. The best thing that you can do is to take your own advice and just admit when you're wrong. You know, take your own advice, buddy.
No, as I said, the only point he can argue now, and we can, anyone can do, can discuss with him the visibility of the tower from Hoylake. That is his only real point that he's got.
Yeah. And that is, again, a completely separate issue.
Exactly, yeah.
To what we're really discussing, which is his claim that his images were taken from Hoylake.
Yeah.
Yep. So, you know, once again, here is Steve doing a pan around, showing us exactly where he is. And the photos that he also took gave us the GPS location because he had the feature turned on the P900, and it all agrees. I mean, you just can't argue with this, yet Anthony tries to. It's just amazing. So there's the Alderley Apartments and the Coast Guard building there again.
Yeah.
The aerial mast is there. There's that big green buoy. And panning across to the left, there's the White House there. There's the.
Can I just say, it's just coming across as a little bit poor quality, but it is in 1080p, I think, isn't it? Anyway, the original video.
Yeah, it is. Yep. And that may just be because we're doing a live hangout at the moment.
Yeah.
After we've done the hangout, it'll probably come through a lot clearer.
Yeah.
Well.
Okay.
Yep. So. Yep. So Anthony, once again, I invite you to accept the invitation, accept the challenge to actually front up and stand up for what you've been claiming all along. Meet up with Steve. You can bring Conspiracy Cats or Ranty or whoever along to hold your hand if you feel that you need to. Let's make sure it's all done honestly and that everybody is happy and that there's no trickery or skullduggery or anything like that. And let's settle this once and for all. Where were Anthony Riley's Hoylake images taken from? Were they taken from Hoylake or were they taken from New Brighton? Let's settle this once and for all. So thank you, Steve, for joining me. And was there anything that you wanted to add in conclusion?
Yeah, just again, Anthony, if you want to go, as I said, as Dazza says, anytime you want to go to Hoylake, New Brighton, I'll go along and meet you there. And we can just do the same thing, no slyness or anything like that. We'll just, look out for each other and make sure we're both being honest. Yep.
It's what it's all about. I'm just checking in on that webcam too. We can see that the tide is right up. That's something I wanted to point out too, is that I knew that the tide today was going to be particularly high. I've just refreshed it so you can see that the
it's high tide now, isn't it?
Yeah. So look how high the tide is compared to other days. Why do you suppose that the tide might be so high at this time, Steve?
Because we've got a full moon.
The full moon? You mean it's got something to do with the moon?
I think so, mate, yeah.
No. Well, it's funny how the tides are always higher when the moon is full or just past full moon. And also
maybe the moon has got some sort of effect.
Yeah, strange, isn't it? And also when it's a super moon, so when the moon is particularly closer and larger in the sky, we have these really high tides.
Yeah, and we've got a really high tide today.
Yeah. So that's the high tide for Wallasey, and it says here somewhere that the maximum tidal range is 9.88 meters or 32.4 feet. Well, that's going to make a lot of difference to the visibility over your horizon, isn't it? If you're whether you're standing on the promenade or lay flat on me belly next to the lighthouse, if your horizon is going up and down by 32 feet in the distance, it's going to make a hell of a difference to what you're seeing in the distance, isn't it?
Yeah. If he's laid flat on me belly in Hoylake today, he's going to need rescuing.
Yeah, I'm just picturing a beached whale there. So earlier on when we looked at this, we could still see that seawall, and just like we saw in Anthony's original photos, that seawall was actually covered over by the high tide, which he claimed was low.
Yeah, there is high tide there now, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And so this is actually
black line showing.
Sorry, what was that, Steve?
I was going to say there's none of that black line showing at the bottom of the lighthouse.
Yeah, yeah. So let me just pull that up. So in Anthony's photo that he took, the one that he said, "Oh, just ignore that image." We could see a little bit of the black line there, but as Steve has just pointed out, it's all covered over now, and it's not even fully high tide there, because high tides do vary. You know, one high tide is different to another high tide. Not always the same level. So, yeah. And let's just check on those other ones while we're there. So yeah, the water as seen from Liso is right up there.
Yeah.
And the other one was this one here, which I still need to pinpoint. That looks so familiar. I know I've seen that.
Yeah, that's more or less looking opposite Liverpool, that.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, you can see the crane, the four big cranes off to your left.
Right, so you're saying that's round the corner here a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's turn off that overlay map. There we go. So I know we're close. It's there somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere down there. Yeah.
Yep, I'll find out later. It's not one of his locations by the look. But anyway, it's useful to see where the tide is anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, Steve, and thank you to everybody for joining us again. And, you know, it'd be nice to think that Anthony would actually front up and go and meet Steve at New Brighton and settle this once and for all. But I won't hold my breath, because let's face it, we all know that if Anthony actually does do that, he's going to have to admit that he's wrong. I've also offered to wager on my YouTube channel, Dazza the Cameraman, to never return to YouTube again if Anthony Riley can prove that those photos were taken from Hoylake as he claimed. I've asked him to wager his channel never to return to YouTube again if I'm proven right. And let's face it, I think we would all agree that we've settled this. It's pretty clear that all of those images were taken from New Brighton. But interestingly, of course, Anthony, I've asked him this at least twice now in emails, and he has been completely silent on that point. Apparently, he's not willing to wager his channel on this. He wants to conveniently ignore that and obfuscate and change the subject and start talking about Blackpool Tower again.
Well, you know, as you say, that's a separate thing altogether.
Yeah.
Get him to try and stick on point, which is, from what I understand, quite difficult.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, Steve, thank you again, and I'll wind this up now. So thanks to everybody for joining us for coffee and donuts on Sleeping Warrior.
Okay, mate. Catch you later.